Yeah, what a great story. I appreciate you taking a minute out today.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's begin our journey into your work. There's so much going on here. I want to know first and foremost, 5 years ago, we were trying to figure out this pandemic. Threw all
Uh-huh.
of us into the unknown. How much of living through that pandemic has influenced the way that you live life and do things today?
That's a very, very good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question before. How has the pandemic? You know what, Joe? I have always been kind of a not really a loner, but I'm very social, but I do enjoy the time by myself. So the pandemic really didn't throw me for much of a loop, being alone or being by myself. So I had took that as an opportunity to have a lot more introspection and to get a little more organized mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, that sort of thing. So I don't think it devastated me like it did for some people because I was used to having my quiet time, my meditative time. It just made me go inward more, I think. So does that answer it for
That
you?
that that does, and I know that you had a cancer diagnosis as well.
Yeah, I did. So right at the start of the pandemic, let's see, we closed school here in February or March, I think. I think we had 1 week where we were closed and we went back, and then that's when everything just shut down. So I think about March, it was about that time. So doing everything online, doing my speech pathology online and everything, which was a bear to do, but I
Yeah.
did it. And then in August, felt a lump, and or maybe before then, felt a lump and went to get it checked out, and it was stage one breast cancer. So knew that because of the pandemic, that I probably wouldn't be able to get anybody to go with me or take me to appointments because it happened here in Saudi Arabia. So we handled the pandemic very, very differently than you guys did in the States. We had curfews, we had lockdowns, we had times where you could only go out. We had to have an app on our phone that you had to show before you entered places to show your immunity status. So they weren't playing over here. So
Yeah.
I kind of sort of knew when I got the diagnosis that I wouldn't be able to get my friends to help me. So, when I got the diagnosis, as I walk into the parking lot at the hospital, I said, God, just please let me be able to walk in and out of this hospital for my treatments on my own, because I knew I'd probably have to drive myself. And sure enough, I did have to drive myself to my chemos and everything.
So let's get to what you're doing right now in 2025. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade schoolers, fifth graders,
Uh-huh.
career day. The kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer?
Oh, okay. Oh, I love my job. I love talking about it. So I'm a speech language pathologist,
Mhm.
which means that I do speech therapy with children and adults and anyone who has a problem communicating. It can be with their language, with what they understand, with what they speak. It can be with their hearing. It could be with stuttering. It could be with voice. It could be with swallowing. It could be any of those different things. Hearing language, voice, articulation, and the way they say their sounds. So those are all the areas that I work with in helping children and adults speak better to be better communicators and get their ideas across. So I do that individually. Don't really have groups now, but I have 3 sets of twins on my caseload right now that are different degrees of language disorders. But I basically help people to communicate better.
My son's on the spectrum. He's 20 and he had speech therapy
Ah,
early
so
on.
you're familiar.
Yeah. So I didn't
Hmm.
know if he was going to even speak. And I remember talking to the speech therapist at one point. I was like, just let me know.
Uh-huh.
I just want to prepare my brain. And she's like, don't worry,
Right.
it's going to happen. And it took a long, long time. But now he asks so many questions. He could be a CIA investigator.
Very good. What
Yeah.
age did he start speaking?
He was probably 3, 4. It took a while. He did a lot of sign language. There was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
approximations. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
really in earnest, it may have even been 5 before he was really
Uh-huh.
getting some level of being able to understood, but it took a long time.
So you're very familiar with that whole profession. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you
Oh yeah.
saw a lot of speech therapists.
IEP minutes. We had the speech therapist come in the
Hmm.
home for first steps early on, but there's
Oh,
always been
good.
some level of speech therapy that's been in his life. So,
And how's he
it's
doing now?
he's doing wonderful, and it's interesting. I've thought about his life and what's kind of bolstered his confidence with speaking. And I remember at one point there's a haircut place here in Kansas City, and there was a
Hmm.
contest where you could yell play ball before a Royals game. And I put his
Uh-huh.
name in it, and he got picked.
Oh,
And
wow.
he got to go out there and yell play ball into the microphone. And I remember how big that was for him. Whether he
Hmm.
vocalized it or not, I know in the
Hmm.
back of his head to be able to say that in a microphone in front of all those
Right.
people was kind of a christening moment. It was nice.
That's a big step for a child on the spectrum.
Yeah.
That's a big to do.
Yeah.
Big to do. That's nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was fun. So let's find out how you got here. Take me back to where you were born and raised. What were the foundational elements? Because you were an athlete as well. There's all of
Hmm.
these levels of you that have excelled. How
Hmm.
did these foundational seeds get planted and get harvested into who you are?
I think they were planted by my parents, Hill and Essie. Hill was a rural fella from, gosh, I can't think of the county now because chemo brain is real.
Yeah.
But in Randolph County, I think in North Carolina, and my mom was from Guilford County, and they met and got married, and they were, you know, Joe, I didn't realize how or similar they were until after I started writing the book. I always thought my parents were just so diversely different, but they yin and yanged really, really well together. And I guess that's why the marriage kind of worked. But they were very strict disciplinarians. They were very orderly, very organized, and very much sticklers for schedules. Making sure, and they're very much on time and making sure that, you make a commitment, you stick with it, you don't deviate from it. At least that's what they taught me, and that's what I saw them do. So my dad was a plant worker. He worked at the cigarette factory in Greensboro, North Carolina. And my mother was a beautician. She had her own shop on the back of our house that she did hair. So just watching them, maneuver and going through their day and doing what they do, just being good parents, providing. We weren't wealthy by any means. We always had what we needed. We had a farm in the back of our little house in Greensboro, North Carolina that provided vegetables for us and for other people. Then my dad brought some land in Sedalia, North Carolina, years later, and we had a big farm there and a lot of land there and built a house. And so we were able to have our allowance. We sold fruits and vegetables, not fruits, but vegetables to the people at the cigarette factory and the post office where my dad worked. So just watching my parents have solid work ethics and morals, I think helped to shape who I was. So that's where all that started. And then with the athletic part of it, my brothers were very athletic. And anything that they did, I wanted to do because I was the first girl that was born. And I have to mention that I do have a sister because I did another interview and I didn't mention her. And she said, you didn't even say you had a sister. So I want to mention that I do have a sister who's in Greensboro, right outside of Greensboro. But my brothers were very athletic, and I just followed them. Being the third child, that they were my role models, kind of. So if they did a sport, I did a sport, and I just kind of. I was a tall girl. I think in sixth grade I was probably almost 6 feet tall. So in seventh grade, when I transferred to the county school, there was tryouts for cheerleading first. And so I thought I really wanted to be a cheerleader because I thought that's what I wanted to do. And I practiced and I did my little thing. And the cheerleading judge was Risa Thomas. I'll never forget it. And I did my little cheer and I finished up and did a nice little reindeer kick. And I'm proud of myself. And I go over, she says, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna get my uniform. I'm gonna be a cheerleader. She calls me over and she says, wouldn't you rather try out for basketball? And I went, okay. Didn't think anything about it. So I tried out for basketball, made basketball, excelled in basketball, got really good, and eventually played junior high, high school, had a great coach in high school my senior year, Debbie Yao, who's the sister of Kay Yao, who I played for at NC State. Went to play at Peace College for Nora Lynn Finch for a year. We became second in the nation and then transferred to NC State and played for Kay Yao and just went on from there. So, having all these amazing role models and examples of how to maneuver life were really, really beneficial and helpful and brought me to here. With regard to speech pathology, I got in the wrong line in undergrad.
Yeah.
Norlin sent me over to a Thompson Hall to sign up for classes, and I just got in the longest line, and I signed up for the classes. And we're on a road trip one day, and she said, Ronnie, how are those media journalism classes going? I said, I'm not in those. I'm in speech pathology and I love it. She said, oh, okay. So I kind of got in it. Then I got a master's degree from LSU and then I just started working and I love what I do. I really, really enjoy the challenge and seeing, well, you can see the results so quickly and you see them, you see the ebbs and the flows and you see the communication come. It's just real rewarding for me.
Yeah. So, what did you want to be when you were in the fifth grade? What was your dream?
I wanted to be a naval nurse is what I wanted to do, I think, or something in the helping. I always wanted to be in the helping profession, but I think nursing probably was it. But I'm not a nurse. I'm not that. I don't do that, those stitches and all that kind of stuff.
No, no, no blood and guts. So, how did you end up in Saudi Arabia? This is might be the first time I've ever spoke to anybody from all the spots in the world that I've talked to. I've
Uh-huh.
never spoke to anybody in Saudi Arabia. How did you get there?
So when I was working at the University of South Florida, I met a girl there, one of my colleagues, and she was getting ready to come to Saudi Arabia to train the first cohort of Middle Eastern students for speech pathology because they didn't have that profession here years ago. And so I just signed my contract and I'd known her from my time in North Carolina. She said, Ronnie, come with me. I said, I really can't. I said, I just signed the contract. I said, I don't want to, burn my bridge like that. She says, okay, no worries. And so she went on to go over and start to train. And a few years later, she called me and said, do you want to come over? And I said, yeah. So I came over back in I want to say it was late 90s, I think, to train some of the first Middle Eastern students and they were in a distance learning program with San Jose State, and San Jose State would send professors and instructors over every semester to train them. And so I was one of the clinical supervisors that they had, and I did that for about a year. Then I went back to USF because it was only a year contract. I went back to USF and worked. And then the same friend called again and she said, they're opening up a women's university that's going to have a speech pathology program. Can you come? You want to come over and set up the clinic and, supervise there? And I said, yeah. So that was 2010 and I've been here ever since.
Wow.
But I don't
So,
work at the university anymore. I'm a private contractor now.
okay. So,
Hmm.
who has been kind of an inspiration for you? I mean, you've had being a professional athlete, going through
Hmm.
cancer, being in a different country,
Hmm.
helping people and changing lives. Who has been that
Hmm.
inspiration for you?
I have a menagerie of inspirational people that I look up to. First of all, my parents, of course. I think they laid the groundwork to for me to pay attention to what's going on in my life and to just, be in the moment. And then when I got my coaches, all of my coaches have been so influential. Debbie Yao, Kay Yao, Norlin Finch. They were all very influential in showing me how to navigate um, adversity. When you're on a Division I basketball team, and you're three down with 10 seconds to go, you got to figure out how to pull a W out. So, seeing being a part of that and learning all those skills and learning the stamina and the mental fortitude that you need to have that I think are all the components that I called on and still call on to this day with regard to just my day-to-day goings on, there's not during my cancer journey, there wasn't a day that I didn't think about my parents. My dad died of lung cancer many years ago. My mom died of breast cancer. She actually broke her leg, and I think that's probably what took her down. But um, and then my coach Kay Yao, had a valiant battle with cancer over like 20 years. So every day I thought about them and their grit and their determination. And so that was a lot of the motivation and behind me just keeping on and driving and taking those steps forward and keeping going every day.
So, what do you miss about America, and what do you love about living in Saudi Arabia?
Well, right now, Joe, nothing about America do I miss.
Oh, I, I didn't even want to jump into that hole. I get it.
I know, but well, not too much right now because it's not a the vibe there isn't very good right now for anybody. I was going to say African Americans, but really for anybody, it's just not very good. But there's not a lot that I miss. I like being over here. A lot of people say, when are you coming home? Aren't you afraid? And it's not like that. It's not what you see on television at all. It's I can probably go out at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to a coffee shop and leave my purse on the table and go to the bathroom and come back and it'll still be there.
Yeah.
I don't have to live in fear of, somebody coming in shooting up a place, or those microaggressions that happen with racism and that sort of thing. So it's very comfortable here for me right now.
Yeah. So how do you balance what gets you up every day to balance this life of helping people, changing lives, and taking care of your own soul? What is that every day for you?
It's just a discipline. It's a discipline that my mom instilled in me to always move and always get your exercise and drink your water. So every day I'm moving. I get up. Well, now that I'm old, you get stiff. I don't know about you, but I'm stiff when I wake up in the morning. I got to stretch before I get out of the bed.
Yeah.
So I do my stretching, in the morning. And the motivating factor is that I want to be able to move when I'm 80,
Yeah.
80 or 90 or even 100. I want to be able to move. I still want to be able to swing a golf club. I still want to be able to move. So that gets me up and out of the bed and moving every day. So, I still exercise. I still do weight bearing exercises. I still walk every day. That gets me going. And then when I see those little small steps that my clients are making, when my kid who comes in saying labbit for rabbit finally goes rabbit, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So those kinds of things motivate me. It's the small things in life that motivate me.
So, to be able to publish one book is a big deal for
Hmm.
most people. You have
Hmm.
two,
Hmm.
My Atypical Journey and My Appointment Notebook.
Hmm.
And you have to really scan and go through your life and relive memories that aren't good. How did you
Hmm.
do that? How did you get to this point where you had to recapitulate these events and get it out? What was that process like for you?
It was very interesting. I've In the back of my mind, I've always wanted to write a book. I didn't know that I'd be writing it about my cancer journey, but it was very organized as it would be with me. I had an excellent editor, Maureen Petrowski. She was amazing. She gave me such good feedback and such good support. And then my copy editor, she was really, really good. Heidi Jensen, she was very, very good too. So, they led me and guided me through the journey of writing the book, and they gave me some, I'm very rule oriented. So I'm Catholic, so I'm just, if you tell me to don't step on the grass, I won't walk on the grass.
Yep.
So I follow rules. So they gave me outlines to follow and that sort of thing, and it really made the process, I won't say easy, but it made it easier for me because I was able to see an outline, and they said, "Well, Ronnie, you need to add this or add that." And so, that's what I would do. And writing during the pandemic was very easy because there wasn't anything else to do. So I was really able to gather my thoughts, and thank God I journaled. I'm a big journaler, so I was able to go back and look at my journal notes and get a lot of details, and I kept all of my medical information together as well. So it wasn't as for me, it wasn't as big a process as most people think it is, but it was a process, but it was a very organized process.
So, what was the moment that you knew that speech pathology and helping people speak, this was going to be your profession? Was there a client? Was there a twinkle in someone's eye? What was the moment where you decided you were going to dedicate your life to this craft?
I think it was in my undergraduate degree, and I can't remember. I want to say the teacher's name was Gail Schumacher. I think that was her name. And I took no, it was Dr. Franklin. I had a phonetics course with him. And that's where you can take whatever anybody says and transcribe it using the International Phonetic Alphabet. And I just had a really, really good ear for hearing the sounds and actually transcribing. And he would just call out words and I could write them really fast. And he said, you're pretty good at this. And when he told me that, it kind of motivated me to want to, to be the best at it. So I really enjoyed doing that. So getting that positive reinforcement for him that I could do that transcription was probably the motivating factor that I wanted to be a speech language pathologist. And then when I had one of my first clients, it was an adult stutterer. He was one of my first clients in undergrad, and he was a very severe stutterer, and he needed to make a presentation in front of one of his I think he was an engineer, in front of one of his engineering groups or whatever. So we had practiced and practiced, and I think I even went to his meeting just to give him that moral support, and he did amazing. And it was there that I thought, yeah, this is what I like to do. This is good. This is real good.
So, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into like the 18-year-old version of you. You can give that
Hmm.
young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've accumulated. What
Hmm.
advice would you impart on that young version of you?
I think I would tell 18-year-old Ronnie to really just do everything and don't be afraid to don't have any fears. Just, if an opportunity comes, take it. Because there are a lot of opportunities, I don't say a lot, but there were some opportunities that I probably had that I wish I'd taken, but I don't have any regrets. But I tell that 18-year-old, if something comes up, if somebody says, let's go someplace, go. If somebody says, let's do something, do it, if it's safe, and I just tell that person, just that 18-year-old Ronnie, just to go for it and really live life and see what's out there and see the experiences.
So when you get a cancer diagnosis, it puts you
Hmm.
immediately at the doorstep of mortality in a very unique way. What has changed about the way you've lived your life, the way that you view each day, the way that you,
Mm.
like you said, saying yes to things? What
Uh-huh.
kinds of changes have happened that have been permanent, that have altered the way that you live?
Joe, I do not sweat the little things. I do not sweat the little things anymore. Something can happen and I'll go, that happened. Whereas I used to go, just kind of go crazy with it. The little things I don't sweat anymore because I know that there are lot, a lot bigger things out there. Um, I try and live in the moment. I try not to think too much about the future, but you kind of have to because you got to sort of plan for things. But, I try, and if I'm having an interaction with a friend, like golfing today, me and my friend were out. She's not a golfer, but we're out on the course and just driving along. And I'm thinking, this is really, really fun today. It's windy out here. The sun is right. It's not crowded. We're just having a lot of fun and laughing and just trying to stay in the moment and just enjoying, um, what's coming at you because life is coming so fast these days,
Yeah.
and it's so important just to be in the moment and to know that what's happening right now is probably one of the most important things and then go to the next. So that's the thing. And also just to keep moving forward at the same time.
So let's say you walked into a room of all of the clients that you've helped in your speech
Wow.
pathology career, and you
Mm-hmm.
could walk up to a podium and tell them one fun thing, one fun
Mm-hmm.
fact, one fun story about you that would humanize you in a different way. What would you tell that room?
Wow. A fun story that would humanize me. Hmm.
Like a first
What could that be?
concert or just something like that.
Uh-huh. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm stumped.
Yeah, that's fine. Sometimes this can be a lot. So let me segue here into this.
Okay.
Of all of these things that you've done, accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
and more importantly, evolved to, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Wow. I think I'm proud of two things. I'm proud of being the child of my parents, number one, and I'm also proud of beating cancer, I
Yeah,
think. Because I don't know if you've had been involved with anyone with cancer, if you've had cancer yourself, but it's not an easy thing to go through by
right,
any means.
right.
And if you can get through it, that you are a hero or a shero. So I'm proud that I'm Essie and Hill's daughter and that, in that journey through cancer, I made it through.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends,
Hmm.
clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm a helper. I think all my friends will tell you, Ronnie, if you need help, Ronnie's gonna help. I'm a helper. I'm a helper and I'm a fixer. I'll help you and try and fix things. So I think that's probably the best perception that I have that people have of me. I'm
So
a
if any,
helper.
yeah, absolutely. So if anyone wants to pick up your books, learn more,
Hmm.
have any questions, any of the good business in your world, where can they go?
They can go to ronnielaughlin.com. That's my website, and you can see get some background information about the book and about me. And also, the book is on Amazon. Both books are on Amazon. You can go there to order them. And YouTube. I have several podcasts on YouTube. And just search Ronnie Laughlin. You should be able to come up with some of the YouTube broadcasts
Okay, excellent. Ronnie,
and
thank you so
Facebook.
much. Yeah,
Thank you so much too, Joe.
this has been wonderful. Best of luck and send my love to Saudi Arabia. I'd love to get out there at some point in my life.
They say inshallah, which means God willing.
Perfect. Thank you so
Okay, take
much.
care. Thank you so much. Enjoyed it. Bye bye.
Take care. Hello, friends.
Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.